Welcome into Inside the Arc, everyone. It is Alec Bussey, joined as always by Brandon Simberg. Wow, we have one hell of a game to recap. Illinois falls in double overtime to Purdue 96-88 on Monday afternoon, Martin Luther King Day. We're recording this on Tuesday. But before we get into that, Sim, just wow, like what a basketball game. I turned to people on Media Row and I was like, I don't want this to end. This is just incredible. Illinois just wouldn't go away whenever they were down. Just an incredible college basketball game and an awesome environment. Just wow.
Yeah, I mean, you said it's up there for one of the best college games you've seen live. I think it is for me too. I mean, trying to think of others, but that's up there. I mean, yeah, like you said, I didn't want to end. I didn't really feel like it would. It felt like end of regulation, first overtime, second overtime. Anytime one team got a lead, Purdue would kind of crawl their way up big three by Alfonso Plummer or something, tie the game, or Illinois goes up two, or they finally get a lead. They finally tied up. You think they got the momentum. And there's Trevion Williams or Zach Edey finishing inside, and the game was tied again. It was a great basketball game. It was a standalone game, so I think it got a lot of national exposure. So I think a lot of people got to see that, these are two good teams. Like I know I'm a notorious Big Ten slanderer, but that was a really high level basketball game. Like I can't really nitpick that game yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, these are definitely two for sure top 20, maybe top 15, potentially top 10 teams at some point later in the season. Like this was a high level game between two teams with great players. Obviously, Jaden Ivey with Purdue. Zach Edey plays his ass off and is incredible. Probably has the game of his life, especially when considering the matchup. For Illinois, you've got Andre Curbelo surprisingly coming out and playing, I mean, kind of like what we thought he would be before the season. We're going to talk about that a lot later. But Sim, let's kind of talk about the elephant in the room. Kofi Cockburn really struggled against Purdue and Zach Edey. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I have from this game. And really maybe the reason why I think the Illini fell to Purdue on Monday. Kofi gets in foul trouble, gets called for 2 fouls in the first half, gets called for a third foul. A lot of people have said it was a bad call. I understood the call. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. I'd still like to go see it a couple more times to really kind of make a definitive opinion. Then gets called for a fourth foul before the first media timeout of the second half. Has to sit on the bench for 10 minutes, doesn't come back in until about the 8 minutes. He ends up playing just 22 minutes, scores only 10 points, has just, I think, 5 rebounds on the day as well. So it's probably his worst game of the season, one of his worst games in an Illinois uniform. But this was kind of my concern coming in was, is he going to be able to win the matchup with a bigger, more physical player in Zach Edey? And he lost it. And not only did he lose it, he got his lunch eaten for most of the time that he was out on the court with Zach Edey.
Yeah, I think when people were saying earlier this year, oh, Purdue has Trevion Williams and Zach Edey, and they got these two different guys they could throw at you. And people are like, well, Kofi's better than both. And yeah, in a vacuum, Kofi, I would still take Kofi Cockburn over Zach Edey. Like I just was starting a team, I would still take Kofi. But the point is, it was just the different looks Purdue could throw. Like I feel like Edey was really only in there to just like you said, take away Kofi's lunch, to just eat him up. And then Kofi would go to the bench and they put in Trevion Williams, who was just initiating offense and helping their offense run. I think people got to see firsthand the benefits of having these two drastically different bigs that are both really good. And yeah, I mean, Kofi was not good. There is no sugarcoating it. There's no way around it. And this is now the second time he's really I feel like this is the second time this year he's played somebody around his size. I mean, obviously,
or just a competent Power 5 front court.
I would say above average. I think competent Wahab.
Okay, yeah, that's good call. That was a
disrespect. I would say above average to good. It's probably the second time he's seen one, Edey and Christian Coloco, and he struggled both times. I think Kofi's lack of he's not very dynamic as a big. He just, he's a catch, power through you and finish guy. And look, that works against 90% of teams. That's why he averages 22 and 11. That's why he's, potential national player of the year. I'm not trying to slander him. That works. And if you're Illinois, you love that. You take that every time. But we've seen what happens when someone his size is matched up against him. I think it's a long-term concern because there's some other bigs in the Big Ten that I think could give him some problems. Marcus Bingham. I would have said Hunter Dickinson, but the boy was ducking Kofi on Friday night. But Trace Jackson
The
Davis is
irony.
too long. So I'm not concerned long term, but like who knows if you get into March and you're just playing a team from another conference with a huge big, like that's when it gets concerned. So it's maybe in the short term, I'm not like overly worried about Kofi Coburn. Like I think he's gonna go out and kill Maryland on Friday. But long term, I would be concerned.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like it just becomes complete matchup based, right? Because if another team has, a big like a Zach Edey, which is really not a good example to use because he's so large, but use like a Marcus Bingham kind of player at Michigan State. Like there's a lot of those kind of players across the country. And even like a Travion Williams in a way has matchup advantages over Kofi that a lot of other bigs don't because he's such a good passer. And we've seen the struggles that Kofi has with really skilled passing bigs. Obviously that was Cam Krutwig in Loyola Chicago last year in the NCAA tournament. And Cam Krutwig kind of just took him out of the game defensively. And yeah, Kofi's got all these advantages offensively because he's so much bigger and he's so much more physical and can use that brute force to get shot off. But teams can throw double teams at him. You can do different things defensively against him to make that advantage that you have on the offensive end much bigger than the disadvantage you have on the defensive end, if that makes sense. And I think when I kind of look at what happened yesterday and what really teams have started to do in the last 3-4 games against Illinois, really since the bragging rights game is when I started to notice this, and maybe Konzo Martin kind of unlocked something, is teams are saying, fine, we're going to single cover you and we're going to give up 2 points to you instead of giving up 3 points to any combination of Trent Frazier, Alfonso Plummer, Jacob Grandison, DeMonte Williams, Coleman Hawkins, whoever, Luke Goody, Brandon Pajemski if he's in the game, RJ Melendez if he's in the game. And honestly, like I think that's a really smart way to defend Illinois. And their teams are defending Illinois outside the perimeter, which is incredible. Like you don't see that in college because they have so many good shooters, and they got run off the line a lot in the first half. Plummer was guilty of passing up a couple open threes in the first half. That upset Underwood visibly on the sideline. And at one point, he kind of yelled at him to just shoot it. That's something that I've noticed a lot in the last couple of games. I know Luke Goody passed up a 3 at one point that was literally wide open, and he later turned it over. And there's definitely a couple others in there as well. And obviously you had some shots rattle out, but to me, that's how you have to defend Illinois is single cover Kofi and don't allow open threes. Like it's better to give up 2 points than 3 points.
Yeah, Purdue was really strategic. Like they rarely doubled Kofi. The few times they did, it was like when he was stuck in a corner or when he wasn't looking, like they'd send him from his back. But other than that, they were like, yeah, we will live with Zach Edey on Kofi. And it paid off.
Travion Williams. And like what makes it interesting, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but Kofi has generally dominated Travion Williams in the past two years that they have played against each other. And that's because of the huge size advantage. But you said it before the game yesterday really well. Travion Williams is one of the most improved players in the entire country this year. With what he does passing the basketball, with what he does around the rim and his footwork and his skill and his touch, like Travion Williams is a hell of a college basketball player. And I don't think people understand how good he actually is.
I agree. If he didn't have Zach Edey and he could play like 30 plus minutes a game, like a lot of these other bigs can, he would be putting up insane numbers. They have two of them. I mean, you talk about Travion Williams being one of the most improved players, which I agree with. I mean, Zach Edey too. Like,
yeah, I mean, Edey probably is the most improved player that I've seen in the country.
Johnny Davis.
Of course, excluding Johnny Davis. I mean, Edey's up there, right?
Edey's up there though. Like he was not playable last year. He looked like a guy who never played basketball before. Like
they were planning to redshirt him.
He was catching the
and
ball.
Then Harms transferred. That's how much he's improved. They wanted to redshirt him and they couldn't because Harms transferred to BYU.
It's like it's not, Edey's 7'4". He just wasn't catching and dunking. Like, dude, he was catching, posting up Kofi and like hook shotting over him. Like it looks like Kareem at some points. Like he was hook shot, soft touch, that was going in. He got fouled. He made his free throws. Kofi probably could have done a better job defensively, and he got in foul trouble too, so maybe he wasn't as aggressive. But like, I just want to tip my cap to Zach Edey. Like, I just think you're 7'4", you're hook shotting. I don't know who's guarding that.
I don't really have an answer for you. And I'll say this, and we should probably talk about Omar Payne. He played a lot in the first half. And I actually thought he was pretty solid in the first half. Let's see, how many minutes did he play in the first half? He played 6 minutes in the first half, forced 3 misses in a row on Trevion Williams, was pretty solid in those 6 minutes, especially on the defensive end. He wasn't great offensively. I don't think he had a bucket. But then he gets called for the flagrant foul and the double technical with Trevion, and then Purdue goes on a 17-0 run. And obviously that's not all on Omar Payne, and then he doesn't really play much in the second half at all. But like, you know, it's one of those things where like you got to control it. And this has been something that we've seen from Illinois this year, right? Like Demonte Williams has been called for a technical foul early in the year, but before Curbelo was out, he was called for one. Coleman Hawkins has been called for one. Like you have to control these things, especially in a big time game. You can't just give up 3 points. And look at it this way. And I realize you really shouldn't do this, but Purdue went to the line and made both those free throws. You don't get called for a technical foul, you win that game in regulation. And you can do that with a whole bunch of things, right? And I'm not putting this game on Omar Payne, right? But like, that's an easy one to look at.
Yeah, no, it's always been Illinois in these games that's got, like, and I guess Trevion got attacked too, but Omar did, like, they reviewed it, and Omar clearly did something. I still haven't seen the video of it, but like he clearly did something, and that's why he was deserving of a flagrant. But yeah, I agree. That's just, I think this team has made strides in their maturity and like their toughness, but they do shit like that that's just like mind-boggling. Like, can't, in a game like this, you just can't do it.
Yeah. Well, and let's talk about, is it fair to call him the player of the game for Illinois? Benjamin Bosmans-Verdonk? I mean, is he I don't know if I would go that far, like maybe co-player of the game. He didn't stuff the stat sheet at all, but somehow Benjamin Bosmans-Verdonk did a better job of defending 7'4" Zach Edey than the 7 foot, 290-pound center that Illinois has. That's incredible. BBV did a great job defending Edey. Honestly, he didn't even look to shoot a lot of times. BBV was on him, just played super hard. I think he had 2 or 3 steals. Just a lot of effort plays. Dove on the floor for a loose ball a couple times, was running out of bounds to chase loose balls. Like, that's the kind of effort you want from him, because you know he's really limited offensively. But man, what he gave Illinois defensively, you can see why Brad Underwood trusts him on that end.
Yeah, you know, people like love to kind of be like, why is Ben playing? They love to come at Ben. And I didn't really see it until I started really watching the film, but like, he's a good defender. Obviously he's super strong. Maybe not the tallest, but like that guy knows where to be on defense, and he moves his feet well, and he just uses his size to be a disruptor. Like, I mean, Trevion Williams was 6 for 18 from the floor, which isn't great. And I think a lot of that has to do
for him.
I think a lot of that has to do with Ben. And like, I get it. He's not great on offense. He missed 2 free throws at a crucial time.
Missed that wide open layup.
Yeah, like he almost looked scared to shoot. Although that one time he caught it underneath and passed it out, actually led to a 3. So like, I get it. He's not the most like visually appealing or fun player. He's definitely a negative on offense, but you know, I think Omar's so up and down that Ben is just more consistent at times, especially on defense, and that's why they play him. And you know, I'm not saying like if Omar Payne has a good game the next time out against Maryland on Friday, like Omar's playing well, I get why you don't go back to Ben, but Ben really did his job against Purdue, and he has a lot to be proud of. Like, even though in a 4.1 for 3 game, he played 20 minutes and he guarded his ass off.
Yeah, and you know, I kind of want to mention, and I saw a couple of tweets out there during the game or afterwards about, you know, Omar Payne didn't do anything in the second half. Well, I don't think Omar Payne did anything in the second half, because BBV came in the first half and defended his ass off. And then when Kofi got his 4th foul, Brad was like, well, Omar's already in foul trouble. He's already got 3 because he went into the break with 3. I can't let him get his 4th. Ben, go back in. And then BBV guards really, really well again, right? And then it's one of those situations where, let me just ride the hot hand, because offensively they're essentially the same player, right? Like, that's just kind of what it is for them, in my opinion, right?
Yeah, it's like, I think Omar has more upside theoretically. Like, he can produce better minutes, right? But he can also produce worse minutes. Like, he's so Jekyll and Hyde that in a game like that where you just kind of need consistency, you need someone to go in and do a job, Ben was the right guy. All right, so I feel like we've talked about 2 players here. I feel like we've almost buried the lead, because we have not talked about the return of Andre Curbelo. I mean, I had heard rumors that he was going to play honestly for the last month. I've heard, oh, he might play today. And it's like, I've just been tuning him out. Like, I was kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it. And then I see a tweet from you that he's dressed. So I'm like, okay, awesome.
Is he working out like pregame or is he going to play?
Yeah, I still like, I was like, okay, he might, I mean,
I think we're all that way.
Is he going to play? How much is he going to play? Like, I still was like uncertain. But I mean, he came in, he swung the game. It's obviously his best game of this year because, you know, he's barely played this year with injury stuff. But I think just when you factor the moment and the toughness he showed, it was one of his best games as an Illini. I mean, what does his return kind of mean for this team now?
Well, I just wanted to, like, he was incredible. Like, dude, like that's what I expected from him before the season, with like a 3 or 2 in the mix, right? Like he didn't have that, but like to come off of a nearly 2-month break. The last time he played a game was November 28th, I think, and that was in Kansas City against Kansas State. To have nearly 2 months off between games, only practice twice, and then to come in and play like 25 minutes and be Illinois', is it fair to call him their best offensive player yesterday?
Yeah, I thought.
I mean, it's him or Plummer, but
I thought he created so much more offense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Plummer kind of is. I mean, he's a flamethrower. He can't leave a moment for a second. He'll hit threes. But Curbelo, I thought, created more for others. So I thought he was the best player offensively.
yeah, no, I think that what he did yesterday was incredible with his ability to get to the basket, with his ability to make a big layup, to tie the game at 69-69 with like 30 seconds left or whatever it was. Like just an incredibly quality. I mean, he looked like Jordan. Like honestly, like he switched the ball in air or switched hands in air on a reverse layup. Like where the hell did he learn how to do that? Like, how does that go through? Like, you played high level basketball. How the hell does that work in your mind?
It doesn't work in mine because I can't do those things. So it doesn't work in mine.
Just listen to this stat. And this is from Isaac Trotter. He tweeted this today. I don't know if you saw this or not. So when Curbelo, Plummer, and Frazier were together on the court yesterday against Purdue, they had 37 points on 30 possessions total, 1.23 points per possession, 37 points on 26 possessions in second half and overtime, 1.42 points per possession. He's just struggling. And he had 14 points on the 10 plays he had with Kofi. Wow.
I was gonna say most of those possessions were without their All-American in Kofi Coburn. Like,
he's supposed to be running a pick and roll with.
I don't have the numbers pulled up on this, but like, I don't think Plummer, Curbelo, and Trent played much together, if at all, when they were all healthy. Back early part of the season.
Early in the year, no, because Plummer didn't get very many minutes. Remember?
Yeah, so I can't. So like, and it's those three are three of their best 4 players. I mean, Kofi's obviously in there. I
would say those are their four best players.
Yeah, I mean, like Grandison's been kind of up and down lately. I'd say, but either way, so you want to get those 3 on the court together, and Illinois did it yesterday, and they did give up some size on the wing. Obviously, like, you know, Ivy and Stefanovic, like they definitely gave up some size. I didn't love it defensively. I like Curbelo was obviously still working his way back. I mean, he was only supposed to play 8 minutes too. Like let's not leave that out. He was supposed to play 8 minutes. He ended up playing 26. But so, you know, Curbelo was not great defensively. Plummer's just not a very good defender. So
he's not a good off-ball defender. He's a fine on-ball defender, I think is the way to describe him. He's a fine
on-ball defender for a 6-foot guard.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Trent is an elite on-ball defender for a 6-foot guard.
Right. And Trent can only shut one guy's water off. Like, you know, it was like,
yes.
Okay, go guard Stefanovic. That's fine. But now like Ivy's going to get to the rim here. Or, okay, we need you on Ivy. Stefanovic's going to come down and hit a contested 3. I mean, I'll give Stefanovic credit. He had some tough shots yesterday, but so
big shots too.
Yeah. Like that lineup, I love it for the offense. The offense is great. You want to get those guys together. And there are certain matchups where teams won't have the wings to exploit them. Like I think when they play Maryland and it's Fats Russell and Eric Ayala and Hakeem Hart, like you can play those 3 guys together. Hakeem Hart wants to beat you.
Are you trashing your Terps?
Yeah.
The team that holds the largest part of your heart, the Terps.
They do not hold the largest.
I mean, they're not a wee team, but I mean, They hold a significant point.
The 2019-2020 Big Ten champion Maryland Terrapins, they have a place in my heart. But this is a brand new team. Like Fats Russell, I don't care about you at all. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Maryland does not hold, the Terps do not have a spot in your heart anymore.
Except for Ayala. None of the guys when I was at school are like still on the team, except for Eric Ayala. So
I feel like he's been there for like 50 years.
He's our age. He looks old as hell. He's our age.
I mean, Trent's been in Illinois forever too.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think you say about Trent?
Dude, Sasha Stefanovic, I mean, that guy's been at Purdue since I was like 5. Like every year he's been at Purdue.
Him, Orion Klein type of guy, like.
Yeah. AJ Hammonds.
But so
Joe Robbie Hummel was there forever.
Yeah. Back to what I was gonna say, but like when they play Michigan State, and Michigan State has like 6'5" Gabe Brown at the 2 and 6'6" Max Christie at the 3, like how much can we get away with playing? You know, how much can we get away with playing those 3 guards at the same time? I'll be super curious because you want all those guys on the court together. The offense is great. You know, Curbelo wasn't forcing it yesterday either. Like that was people's issue, I think, early on in the season, forcing shots or forcing the passes into certain areas. Like I felt like he more or less let the game come to him. You know, 0 turnovers. Like even though he only had 3 assists, the 0 turnovers to me is the bigger thing because he had some hot.
Well, and he should have had more than 3 assists. I mean, one of them comes to my mind right away when BBB smoked that wide open layup. Like that's a 4th assist. I'm sure there's a couple other shots that rimmed out or just didn't go in. I'm really interested to see how this dynamic plays out in the long term because I think you can throw Grandison into this mix too. And I think that Curbelo is going to have to come off the bench to start. But do you think he works his way back into the starting lineup?
I don't think he should. No.
But do you think he does?
I don't know. That comes down to like team, like, you know, is he saying he has to be a starter kind of thing? Like, I don't really know, but I like him off the bench.
I guess my thing is though, like Trent has to be on the floor. Trent is going to be on the floor. So you can kind of exclude him from this conversation. Like that kid's going to start. He's your best defender. He's essentially been your 3rd best offensive player all season now that, you know,
he's carried the offense at times. Like,
yeah, like he's going to be on the floor. So if the dynamic of DeMonte Williams, Jacob Grandison, and Alfonso Plummer, of those 3 players, who is going to see their minutes cut the most with the return of Curbelo? And I think it's a really interesting dynamic to look at. And we know Brad is going to play DeMonte Williams for his defensive abilities. And we know how much he trusts him on that end. And we saw how good he was on that end yesterday with what he did against Jaden Ivey, who largely disappointed yesterday. I mean, he finished with 19 points, but 13 of them came at the free throw line. And he was 3 of 10 from the field. So like DeMonte did a great job on him, and Trent helped out a little bit as well. But you can have Jacob Grandison guard for, like, does Plummer see his minutes cut? But it makes the most sense to run a pick and roll action with Curbelo, Plummer, and Coburn. But Trent's got to be on the floor because he's your best defender. This dynamic to me is going to be really, really interesting. And it's a lot different than what we saw early in the year, because early in the year when we saw all of these people healthy, Plummer wasn't getting minutes, and Plummer wasn't scoring 15, 16 points a game. He wasn't putting in 20-point performances on a consistent basis like he has at points this season. I don't know where the minutes decrease. And I'm really interested to see how it works itself out.
I mean, Illinois, don't forget, Illinois was 6-0 in the Big Ten without Andre Curbelo. Like, I don't think they necessarily, like, if he wasn't on the team for the rest of the year, which in the back of my head, I was kind of just that's how I was assuming this team at a certain point with him. Like, they don't need him. You know, they have enough without him.
But they're significantly better with him. And he told everyone in the world yesterday, fuck you if you thought that this Illinois team was better without me. That's literally what he said. Sorry for my language, mom and dad, if you're listening.
He does take them to another level, but they were really good without him. Like, you know, it is an interesting dynamic thing. I think a lot of it is matchup based. Like, can you play the 3 guards together at the same time? If you can't, you know, that's going to be less minutes for Plummer. But also, like, I just think there might be matchups where Kofi's killing and you want to space Kofi with 4 shooters. Like, I don't know if Curbelo's going to be getting 20 minutes a game, especially as they try to ease him back. Like, I think there's going to be times when Kofi and 4 shooters, like we've seen, has worked. And then there's going to be times when Kofi, isn't as dominant, and then they'll really need Curbelo because he's, in my opinion, he's their second best source of offense. So
if he's clicking, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I just think this dynamic is really freaking interesting. And I'm really interested to see how it plays out. And I think that it's now, is it fine to use the word safe to assume that he's going to be active, assuming he doesn't get hurt again in the rest of Illinois' games? I mean, Brad has said a lot this season, right? Like, it's all based off of how he reacts to the thing that he did the day before. There's been times where it's been 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I mean, what if he goes into Ubben today and he's like, hey, like this doesn't feel right or whatever. And then they're back to him not being available on Friday when they go to Maryland, right? Like, would I be completely shocked if that happens? 100% shocked? No. Would I be a little surprised? Maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if we can count on 20 minutes a night. Like, that clearly seemed like
not now, but by the end of February, I think Illinois should be counting on 20 to 25 minutes from him if he's continuing to play and build up.
And I would use those minutes on the non-Kofi minutes. Like, even though him and Kofi together is a great duo, I think staggering them so you have like one of your 2 best sources of offense on the court at all times is the best way to do it. And then you just look at the opponent. Can we play?
And you can stagger them too with Payne. Like, I think Omar Payne now has an ability to become a much better offensive player for Illinois because he's so good in pick and rolls. This is something that people have seen nothing of Omar Payne offensively because he doesn't have a huge back to the basket game, right? Like, now he's going to get the great pick and roll point guard to run it with. Like, now Omar Payne could see his offensive game and his offensive output increase just a little bit from several did not scores to 2 to 4 points a game on a lob or something, right? Like, I think Omar Payne could really benefit from this.
Yeah, no, I think this is for me, my problem. Omar, for me, it's going to come down to his defense. Like we talked about the Ben thing. Like, I think that guy's minutes, how Brad is. Omar's minutes are going to stem from his defense if he's able to guard actions. Are you concerned with our wings at all? Because in the 40 whatever
who's playing wing?
Jacob Grandison and DeMonte Williams.
I'm sorry, they're wings.
Yeah,
this has been my concern since the season started.
DeMonte was good defensively yesterday. Jake's been kind of hit or miss as a shooter, but they played a combined.
Yeah, I've thought that too about him in the last 4 or 5 games. But if you go look at his 3-point percentage or his 3-point numbers in the last few games, it really hasn't dipped that much.
Yeah, I mean, he was
like
2
yesterday.
for 5.
He was 2 of 5 from 3.
That's
and he had 1 or 2 of them rattle out.
That's 40%.
Like, I'm not going to complain. And he's not like a guy who's going out there and shooting like Plummer yesterday shot 9 of them or 12 of them.
Well, so
like he's not going to go. He's not a guy who's going to shoot 8, 9, 10 of them a game like Trent and Plummer are. He's a 4, 5, 6, 7 a game kind of guy, and he's making 3 to 4 of them.
I guess my concern would now be that I think teams know to run them off the line. That's
my concern. And that's why I said what I said earlier about defending them that way. I would rather give up 2 points than 3 points. And if Alfonso Plummer wants to keep taking shitty mid-range jump shots because he's getting run off the line and not passing to an open shooter, or he's passing up an open 3 because he's anticipating getting run off the line. Well, if I'm the other coach, I just won that possession because a 40% 3-point shooter is passing up a open shot for a 2-pointer that's 17 feet from the rim. Like, go to the rim and finish, Plummer. You've shown you have a high ability to do that. And if you miss it, your chances of getting fouled are way up here compared to way down here if you're taking the 17-footer. Like, what are you doing? Quit taking those shots. It's an awful shot selection, especially for him.
Those are the shots Brad Underwood likes to make teams take, those long twos.
Those are shots that every coach likes to make teams take in 2021. It's an awful shot.
also true. Yeah.
It's an awful shot. And I'm heated about this because I go back and watch the film for my 5 film stories. And I don't know why I'm so heated about this. I don't normally get heated like this on the pod. But like I go back and watch these and I just keep seeing them take all of these 18, 19, 20 foot jump shots. I'm like, quit doing this. That's awful.
Yeah, but you're not going to look, I'm not a long two believer. Like you're not going to.
I don't think anyone is anymore.
If you're looking for a rebuttal, you're not going to find one here. Yeah. All right. I want to shift to maybe long-term, short and long-term, like Big Ten outlook. I think on the last pod you said you thought Illinois was the best team in the Big Ten at this moment. Is it now Purdue? Because to me that was, even though Purdue has 2 losses, I'm not saying who's going to win the Big Ten because again, it's just hard to predict all these games. And Purdue's still a game back of Illinois, Michigan State, and Wisconsin in the loss column. Like they still got work to make up. Like in a vacuum on a neutral court, like that performance yesterday told me that Purdue is the best team in the league. That's what that told me. That's the scariest team. That's the last team I want to see.
I think it was always that team.
I thought you said it was.
No, I thought Illinois was the best team in the Big Ten 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Okay.
But I always said that I thought Purdue was the highest ceiling team. I always thought they were the team that had the ability to go to the Final Four of any team in the league. They were always the most scary. What I struggle to grasp here with this conversation now is, yes, Purdue came into Champaign and they won, but it took 2 overtimes and Kobe Coburn's worst game of the year. Like if Illinois goes into West Lafayette in February, and I don't know what day that is.
I think February 10th.
If they go into West Lafayette and Kofi wins that matchup in the paint and you get the same performance from the guards, who's going to win that game? Right? Like I think
that's tough to do. That's tough to do on the road. And
it is, right? But what I'm taking away from this is that I think Illinois has the ability to be a top 15, top 10 team, which is right where they were at the start of the season, Sam. Like in the gap between Purdue and the gap between Illinois, I don't think is very big. And I do think those are the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. Like I know Wisconsin went into West Lafayette and won. I know they have probably the best player in the Big Ten. And they might win the league, but that doesn't mean I think you're the best team in the league. How many times have we seen a Michigan State team win the Big Ten and they're not the best team in the league?
I mean, the 2020 Wisconsin, talking about Wisconsin, the 2020 COVID Badgers.
That team was not the best team in the Big Ten. They lost their best player and they somehow won the Big Ten.
Yeah. And like their scheduling is always a part of it too. Like that team had an easy schedule.
Part of it. It's a huge part.
No, I think Purdue is like I think they're the best team in the league. Like
I do
too. Not clearly, but like I don't maybe think it's like I think at Mackey things are gonna go Purdue's like I think role players always hit shots at home. Like you're gonna get more maybe from Brandon Newman or like Isaiah Thomas or something in a home game or Mason Gillis. Like I think that's what
I think it's fair to say you're probably gonna get more from the Jaden Ivey.
And like Jaden Ivey. Yeah, I don't think Trevian will go 6 for 18 again. Like, but that being said, Illinois still does have the game lead, a game lead on them. Wisconsin's got an interesting week. So Wisconsin is now the hottest team in the league.
I'll tell you who has an interesting week. It's Michigan State. We're gonna find out real quick how good
those 2 teams. Yeah, so those 2 teams play on Thursday, in Madison, and then Michigan State, I guess, turns around a week from today. Is at Illinois.
On Tuesday.
Yeah. Wisconsin's
that is a massive game in Champaign.
Right. Either Michigan State, it's for first place in the Big Ten if Michigan State can win in Madison on Thursday. Or Michigan State.
If your Tom Izzo is your goal to split.
Yeah. I think they want to win the league. I think they can win the league. I think every team in the top 5, once Purdue lost 2 games, I was like, holy shit, we can grasp this.
That's why Monday's game was so big for Illinois, because you essentially could have done yourself
buried Purdue.
I mean, they would have been 3.5 games back midway through January. That's really tough to make up, and they could have. but that's just really difficult to do. But you're not only doing yourself a huge favor if Illinois wins that game. Tom Izzo's flying on a private jet to Champaign along with Greg Gard to shake Brad Underwood's hand and tell him, hey, thank you for getting Purdue out of this thing because I want to hang a banner in my arena. But
yeah, no, like that yesterday was a huge chance to like bury Purdue. Again, like I still think Purdue is super scary, but they were 3 games back. Like it's just hard to make that up. So yeah, this next week Illinois is at Maryland on Friday. I'm not going to Sharpie any wins. Maryland
that's not going into, what's the name of that stadium?
Xfinity Center.
I was going to call it the Turtle something. We should call it the Shell. Something cool. Dude, why does Shell Gasoline not sponsor that place? Is it a dome?
No, it's
like a rounded roof.
It's a regular stadium. No, it's like a regular.
That's too bad. It should be a rounded roof and Shell should call it the Shell. That'd be sick.
I'll get my buddies at UM Terps on the phone.
Yeah, dude, make it a marketing major. Forget journalism. No, like that's a tough place to go win for sure, but it's not as difficult of a place to go win as it has been in recent years. And it's given that Illinois has to win, right? They have to win that game.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you lost to Michigan State at home, that would suck. You don't defend home turf. That team, at least in my eyes, is good and competent on the right night. Maryland is not good to me. They're not competing. They're that second to last in the Big Ten. You got to win that game. I want to, unless you have more Big Ten thoughts, I want to throw it out something we talked about yesterday.
I want to go briefly into this. I think we're going to learn real quick how good Illinois is here in the next 3 weeks, a month. Like you're going to have to beat, if you want to win the Big Ten, you're going to have to go on the road and you're going to have to beat Maryland. But then you're going to have to come back home and you're going to have to beat Michigan State. You can't lose Michigan State at State Farm Center on a game that's 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. You have to win that game if you want to win the Big Ten. That's a must-win game if you want to win the Big Ten. Let's call a spade a spade. But after that Michigan State game, like it gets pretty tough pretty quickly. I mean, you then get Northwestern. That's an easy game. You then you get what I think is maybe the most difficult 3-game stretch of the entire season in early February. You get Wisconsin and Champaign. You go to Indiana. You go to Purdue. You might have your Big Ten champion at the end of February 10th if Illinois handles business and is finding a way to be like 9-1 or whatever.
Yeah, we say this. I just don't see how they.
I don't see that happening either, right? But like, I think what I'm saying is, I think we're going to find out how good this Illinois team really is in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, because
they still don't have the marquee win on their resume.
I think as I look at like Lenardi's bracketology here, I think they've beaten one tournament team.
In that tournament team is Iowa. And that tournament team is a bubble team.
They're like a 7 seed. Like I think
by the end of the season, like they're gonna be one of the last 8 teams in. Potentially.
Yeah, it's even though it was on the road, that makes it a little better. It wasn't a great win. Like, Michigan's not making the tournament. Maryland's not making the tournament. I would hope they have Minnesota out of the tournament picture now. I think that team's awful. Yeah, Minnesota's not in the tournament picture right now. Notre Dame's not. Rutgers is not. Marquette is actually hanging around, but they're like on the bubble.
Right, but you lost that game. Like you still don't have you don't have a marquee win on your resume yet.
No, that's like, yeah, I need to see them beat a good team, like a real team. That's what I've said all year.
But the losses to Arizona and the losses to Purdue show that Illinois
can be in the game.
I was going to say, can they beat? If they were to play, if they're a 4 seed, well, I guess I would be playing a 1 seed. No.
And those games were at home too. Like, I don't know. I need to see that.
Yeah, like I guess what I was going to say is that if you're a 4 or 5 seed and you're playing a 1 seed Arizona again, which I don't really think is how that would match up, but let's say you do it and you win that game. I wouldn't be blown away that Illinois won that game because it was a close game in Champaign that they played without Andre Curbelo, but like, I wouldn't pick them to win that game because I think Arizona is one of the 5 best teams in the country, 6 best teams in the country. that fair?
Yeah, they're in that group for me. Yeah,
Auburn.
I need to
Auburn.
see,
Auburn.
yeah,
You're high on Auburn. You
Auburn
like
number
Auburn.
one. Auburn number one.
You were kind of
I
on
think
that for everyone else.
I have the receipts too. I have the receipts when we hang a banner in Auburn Stadium. No, I need to see
People are gonna
Illinois.
really love Bruce Pearl when he does that. I'm just saying.
I think it's hilarious. Maryland fans thought they could get him, and he's out here like ripping his best season ever. Like they're just Maryland fans like come to Maryland.
More
total
unrealistic fan base, Maryland or Illinois.
I'll say Illinois. Maryland fans are like self-deprecating. Like Maryland fans like kind of enjoy when they lose and they can make fun of their team. Like people were rooting against Turgeon at the end of the era. Like if anything, they're too realistic. Like Jesus, just show some like love. So I'll say Illinois. But I need to see Illinois win a big game, and that is Michigan. Even though Michigan State at home for me, that counts. Like that's a ranked win. That's a good team. Wisconsin at home in early February. You only play Wisconsin once. Scheduling gods aren't making you go to the Kohl Center this year. You gotta take care of business. You gotta win. Once they can really win a big game and do it for 40 minutes, that's a good team. Is when I'll be more bought in. And if you win both those games, you're in a good spot to win the league. So
yeah, and now I feel like we're in the middle of January, we can start looking at the tournament implications of this. Not that I'm a huge bracketology in January kind of guy, because I'm really not. But you're playing for seeding at this point. Like you're in the tournament, you're going to make it. You want to win big games so you get a better seed. Like if you can work your way up to being a 3 seed, that's a possibility potentially. I think right now you're probably on the 4 to 6 line, probably closer to 5 than you are to 4. Like
you need to get off the 4 line, in my opinion. Like you need to be one of the top 12 seeds, so you don't have to face a 1 in the Sweet 16. You need to be a top 3 seed, and that's possible.
Yeah, that's very much possible. If you look at they were what, preseason 11?
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't like to do that. That's an exercise that you taught me last year that I don't think is the greatest thing in the world, but whatever. Like it shows that you can be that, and I think this team can be that, especially if they win the Big Ten.
But they gotta win. They gotta get big wins. They gotta win the big games, and they've squandered their 2 biggest chances so far. And I would say both those games were moral victories. Like I walked away feeling better about them after losing to Arizona and losing to Purdue. I wouldn't beat myself up over losing to those 2 good teams, but they need to stamp that signature win, whether that's Michigan State, at Purdue, home for Wisconsin, maybe home for Ohio State. They're solid. Like they need that big win, and they need to keep stacking those for their resume and for the chance to win the Big Ten.
Yeah, I think you said it best, and I think you kind of said it something, and maybe we wrap up after this. But Brad Underwood yesterday is in his post-game press conference saying we got better today. Like I think that was his exact words, and everyone I'm sure has seen the video of him in the locker room with his post-game message that they posted. Normally they only post those after wins. He's saying, hey, like we just can't let 1 turn into 2. We got better today. Like I'm so proud of this team, and I couldn't be prouder of the way you guys play. And I'm thinking, well, you could be if you won, in my head, duh. But you know what? Like that's besides the point. What these losses to Arizona and Purdue show me is that Illinois can at the very least play with a team that has the ability to go to the Final Four. And they can beat a team that can go to the Final Four.
I think so. They need to beat one first, but
yes. Now I'd like to see him do it away from Champaign, which we're going to get an opportunity to see at some point. But
before we go,
an opportunity here.
And we talked about this yesterday. Who's the best team Illinois has played this year? We've talked about
it's Arizona. It's Arizona. I was thinking about this morning when I was driving to go get errands. It's Arizona. Brad said after the game, it's Purdue. I disagree. It's Arizona.
I do think Purdue's a worse matchup for us. I think we match up better with Arizona, but I think in a vacuum, Arizona's a better team, and their resume is, although they don't have a big win either, but like their resume has reflected it so far. I think Arizona in the vacuum is a better team. You asked me who has a better shot to win the title. I would say Arizona. I think they're more balanced. I like their guards. I like their.
Would you rather have Kirk Kriisa or Isaiah Thompson?
Kirk Kriisa.
Would you rather have Jaden Ivey or Benedict Mathurin.
Jeez, it's like asking me to pick between two of my kids. I lean Ivy. I do, even though we saw yesterday.
I lean Ivy too, but who's more consistent? Matherin's been more consistent.
Yeah. I mean, I'll take Stefanovic over Dalen Terry, though.
I would too, but it's not by a lot.
And then Tubelis is much better than Gillis.
It's not close.
And Trevian and Edey are better than Koloko, and Purdue's bench is a little bit better, but Koloko just fills the role so well. Like, they don't ask Koloko to beat Trevian Williams.
And Balo is a very good backup big.
Yeah, Arizona's bench is not bad either. I think Arizona's a better team, but I do think the Edey factor makes.
Sam, you're a sports gambler. Let's make it real simple. You're putting money on one of them as a future to win the national title. Where did you put your money? You can't put it on.
Oh, Arizona conference. I mean, Purdue plays the Big Ten. They haven't won a title in years. Conference of champions.
Okay. Besides the Big Ten hate.
I just think Arizona is the better team. I do too. Purdue, because the two bigs makes it harder on us, and Edey being bigger than Kofi, the worst matchup for us. But Arizona's a better team.
Listen, I said earlier that Arizona is one of the 5 best teams in the country. As we're sitting here talking about this, I'm thinking in my head, well, Baylor just lost 2 games in a week at home. Okay. You got obviously Auburn, you got Duke, you got Gonzaga. Like, I think Arizona could beat any of those teams.
Yeah, on a given night.
I think Arizona's really good. This is how I know Arizona's the best team in the country. Because when I was driving to do errands today, I'm thinking about that game. And I'm thinking about the Purdue game. And I remember leaving State Farm Center. What month was that? Was that early December? Was that November? I don't know.
It was December. Okay.
It was December 11th. Okay. I remember leaving State Farm Center thinking, that team is damn good. Like, I remember thinking that might be the second best college basketball team I've ever seen in my life, behind Baylor last year. And I'm thinking, like, damn, that team might bother Baylor at points. Like, that Arizona team is dirty. You were on it way before anyone else. So congratulations.
Yeah, I guess Illinois got career games, it felt like, from Trent and Plummer. Like, they had monster games from Trent and Plummer, and they still, they were close, but they couldn't win.
Are you going to get that again if you play them in the Elite 8, Elite 16?
Illinois,
do I really want to bank on 29 and 27 from those 2 players? No, I don't. No. Kofi might play better, and you have Curbelo.
But Arizona
I'm still picking Arizona to win that game.
Arizona didn't hit that many threes. I thought they could have played better too. Yeah, okay. We're in agreement. Arizona's the best team Illinois played this year.
Yeah, and that's no slight against Purdue. I think Purdue's really good. But Arizona, plus what's your description of Arizona? When they aerial shot, ESPN after dark, overlooking Tucson. You always have these great picturesque.
Tucson's low-key. I mean, it's just east of the Sonoran Desert, with the mountains, including the biggest mountain himself, Mount Christian Koloko, a mountain of a man. Benedict Mathurin with those broad shoulders. Broader than the Boulder Mountains.
All right. I think that's all we've got. I think that this was a pretty good episode. At least I hope so. Illinois goes into Maryland on Friday. Should be a win. If it's not, we got problems.
I'm excited to preview Michigan State next week.
It's a huge game.
I'm excited to talk about Maryland and then preview Michigan State. I'm really looking forward to.
Yep. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Appreciate it. Make sure to give us a 5-star rating if you can, much like my favorite recruits. I'm totally stealing that line from my favorite college football podcast. Thank you, Ari Wasserman, for making me fully realize that stars matter more than anything in college football and making me realize that Georgia was going to win the national title. I should have put money on it. On that note, we're getting out of here. Thanks for listening to Inside the Arc, everyone.